Today I'd like to show you something that really blew my mind. The universe and the Milky Way appears to have cell-like structures. Structures that in form and function resemble cells. They're not actually cells, but they very much resemble cells, but at a vastly different scale. Last episode, we showed something nobody had checked before. Stars don't just float randomly through the galaxy. They bond like atoms in chemistry. Most stars you see in the sky are not alone. They're not singles. Over half of them are binaries, triples, even tetrahedrons. Stellar systems seem to behave much like molecules, except 23 orders of magnitude larger than the molecules in your body. Which leads to the obvious question. If stars are atoms and open clusters are molecules, then what comes next? Welcome back to our fractal universe. I'm Chris Lato. I'm a former F-16 pilot, crash investigator, and I have a degree in material science. I'm the author of the book this channel is built on. And today, I'm going to show you the most surprising prediction the Cosmic Octave framework makes. And we'll look at the new data that landed exactly where the prediction said to look. A quick recap for anyone new here. This is episode 11. The framework says fundamental structures across the universe appear on a scale ladder. Neighboring rungs are roughly a factor of 1,000 apart in size, so that's 10 to the 3. You have a proton, then the atom, then the ribosome, then the bacterium, etc. So each one is about 1,000 times bigger than the last. What we see is emergent properties, a new scale, something new emerges every step of about 1,000 or so. But every 8 rungs or so, a deeper pattern repeats. Structures line up almost exactly 10 to the 24 times larger. So that's 24 orders of magnitude. That's 8 steps. And I call that a cosmic octave. In episode 3, I showed you 6 of these octave pairings. A bacterium lines up with the local bubble, and that's at a deviation of 0.665. So I call that a very good match. C. elegans, that's a tiny worm, lines up with the entire Milky Way galaxy at a deviation of 0. So that's a perfect match. Again, it's coincidental that it's a perfect match, but it's close. It's very good. But here's what I didn't appreciate until later while writing the book. The bacterium is nature's simplest complete cell. So that's the very first thing in nature that we can say is unambiguously alive. So viruses are partly alive, right? But it's really at the bacterium that we see, okay, this is definitely alive based on our science. The Cosmic Octave framework predicted that at one cosmic octave larger, at exactly 10 to the 18.67 meters, there should be something equivalent, the first cell-like structure at a galactic scale. So I went looking, and what I found surprised me. So here is the mental picture most of us all still carry from school. You have the solar system on the left. So you have the sun, now 8 planets, and we have the Milky Way on the right, 200 billion stars. But the question I want to ask right now is what is in between that? Because in between the solar system, which is around 10 to the 12, and the Milky Way, which is 10 to the 21, is a lot of zeros. The Milky Way is 112 million times larger than the solar system, if you can think of that. So you, to the nation, to the planet, essentially, is 1 million times, only 1 million times. But the whole solar system, compared to the galaxy, is over 112 million times larger. Think about that. And when I ask what is in between this, at least before I started looking into it, it's a blank. There's a gap in my visual map. At least for me, nothing comes to mind. At least nothing I was ever taught the name of. It's just empty space. You have the solar system and then you have the galaxy. What's in between? There's a lot in between, actually, a lot of structure. And the interstellar medium is not just empty fog. It is a foam. It's not just random gas and dust out there. You have an actual three-dimensional honeycomb of discrete, bounded cavities, blown open by chains of supernova and stellar winds. Each cavity is separated by denser shells where new stars are actively forming. And right now, we are living inside one of them. So outside of the solar system, you have stellar clusters, clusters of cells about 1,000 times larger than the solar system. And then about 1,000 times larger than stellar clusters, you have what we call bubbles. They call them bubbles, actually. And our bubble is called the local bubble. So it's very creative. The local bubble is roughly 1,000 light years across. So that's 10 to the 18.67 meters. That's the radius. But what's amazing is that is exactly where the Cosmic Octave said a cell-like structure should appear. 14 million years ago, which is really not that long in cosmic time, this region was just ordinary interstellar gas. But then, roughly 15 massive stars in the Scorpius-Centaurus association detonated as supernova over just a few million years, so almost at the same time. Their shock waves swept the gas outward like a cosmic snowplow, carving the hollow that we now inhabit, the local bubble. What's also interesting is that the sun wasn't here when it formed. Our solar system drifted into this cavity only about 5 million years ago. So again, very recent. So we are recent arrivals in a structure that's still young by cosmic standards. And those supernova left a physical fingerprint right here on Earth. So buried in deep sea sediments, manganese crusts, and Antarctic ice, scientists have found atoms of iron 60. Iron 60 is a radioactive isotope of iron that can only be produced in recent nearby supernova. Because it's radioactive, it degrades, right? So we know it's recent. This was first detected by Knie in 2004, and it was confirmed by Wallner in 2016, so relatively recently. Real atoms from those exact stellar deaths are now part of our planet. Now I'm going to give you a little background information and be honest about my work with our fractal universe. Because the score actually changed. So in the book, I score every cosmic structure against NASA's 4 working criteria for life. How do we label something alive or not? So there's 4 working criteria: metabolism, reproduction, homeostasis, and evolution. So I score 0 to 3 points for each of these. You get a total score of 12 points. When I first scored the local bubble a year and a half ago, it got only 2 out of 12. So basically dead space. What I said is it's not alive, it's an empty cavity. And that was what was in the book for over a year, right? I was ready to accept that. This framework initially said that the local bubble was dead, right? But then the data changed. Zucker and colleagues in Nature 2022 showed that nearly all nearby star-forming regions sit right on the surface of the local bubble, and that the bubble's expansion helped actually trigger that star formation. Then Metha and colleagues in 2026 showed that superbubbles can leave localized metallicity fingerprints in galactic disks. If you watch my episode on stars, you see that metallicity is a prime indicator of generations of reproduction. So that's a similar chemical structure on the same basic scale, around a few hundred parsecs, as these superbubbles, these local bubbles. And then the FANG's JWST survey found that nearly a third of the bubbles that they cataloged in a survey NGC 628, those bubbles contain smaller bubbles forming right on their edges. So this means is you have one generation of feedback shaping where the next generation forms, similar to what we saw in metallicity in stars. And then eROSITA, meanwhile, gave us a sharper X-ray view of the local hot bubble itself, which means it's not just cold, dead space. So hot means there's million-degree plasma inside that's mapped in soft X-rays, with the surrounding shell traced by dust and gas maps. So you have a real inside-outside distinction, very similar to a boundary that we see in cell membranes. So that was 3 independent lines of evidence. It's all different instruments, but it's all pointing in the same direction. So I rescored the local bubble with the new data. I used those 3 new studies. And the score actually jumped from 2 out of 12 to 9 out of 12. So now it's borderline quasi-living. And to put that into perspective, that's the same score that the biosphere of planet Earth gets when treated as one living system. So the Gaia hypothesis, if you score it using the same rubric, you get the same score, 9 out of 12. So there is a lot of evidence that the local bubble could be much more than we currently consider. And I did not move the goalposts, okay? The evidence, what we found, moved the score. And that's what's great about our fractal universe framework, is that if it's correct, there's a lot of predictions. We should continue to find more and more information that validates it or refutes it. In this case, it really validated it and, again, blew me away. Here's exactly why it looks like a cell. First, a cell has a boundary. The local bubble has hot plasma inside that's mapped, as I said, in soft X-rays, but there is a denser shell around it, traced by dust and gas surveys. So we see a boundary. A cell also maintains homeostasis, right? It has a certain temperature, maintains entropy from the outside. The million-degree interior plasma pushes back against the surrounding interstellar pressure, so that keeps the cavity open, right? Otherwise, it just crushed down into nothing. Same thing as a cell has pressure on the inside versus the outside. The shell's magnetic field is also several times stronger than the interior. So it's like the actin scaffolding under a cell membrane. And like I mentioned before, a cell reproduces. The FANG survey shows smaller bubbles forming along the edges of larger ones. So you have one generation of supernova feedback shaping where the next generation appears. And finally, a cell evolves. Roughly 1,000 similar bubble cavities exist across the Milky Way. So more efficient ones trigger more star formation and more daughter structures, so more little bubbles. Less efficient ones that can't maintain those 4 things dissipate. So that is selection operating on a population, right? Generations over time. Also interesting is that the local bubble is not unique. So surveys using 21 centimeter hydrogen and X-ray data show that the Milky Way contains on the order of 1,000 similar superbubbles. If you remember back from episode 3, the worm C. elegans has exactly 959 somatic cells. It's the most studied eukaryote in science. That's why I used it. And it pairs perfectly with the Milky Way, 10 to the 24 times larger in size. So you have a worm with about 1,000 cells, and you have a galaxy with about 1,000 cosmic bubbles, separated by 24 orders of magnitude. So I'm not claiming that the galaxy is literally alive, but I'm saying that these numerical coincidences keep piling up in places no one really bothered to look. No one bothered to try and match them. Okay, so here's the arc we have so far, right? Stars equal elements, at least in form and function, in similarity. That was from episode 3. Open clusters form molecules. That was from episode 10. Right? We had the Mizar system. It's a system of 6 with Alcor, 6 stars oriented in a particular formation. And you have methane, which is 5 atoms oriented in a particular formation. That was from episode 10. Now we have local bubbles equal to cells, at least in similar form and function. That's today. So we have there 3 rungs of the cosmic ladder, appearing exactly where chemistry says they should. So this is either, as many of you have been saying, me just seeing patterns where there are none, or it's the universe is far more structured than we have been taught. The argument is we see recursive elements of the universe, repeating structures that form based on the physics of that scale. Emergent properties of the universe, but it comes back around. Like music comes back around. You can have the same A note at a certain octave, and then a higher or lower octave, you can have the same note. They resonate with each other. Why does an A come around again? Same thing with color. The color wheel is actually a color wheel. If you look, how does the color wheel repeat? How do we get purple? I go into much more depth on all the predictions. So every prediction, every score is in the books. There's actually 2 books. Every claim is testable as well. If you want to get deep into the mathematics, that's in volume 2. That's the Math Companion. But the book is up for pre-order. Please consider purchasing it. It's only $3 until after it publishes 3 July, and then it'll go up in price. And pre-order is huge for a book. That's the single most important way you can help support my work in this channel. But thank you for watching. Next episode, if stars are atoms, star clusters are molecules, and the local bubble is a cell, then what exactly is the Milky Way? Hit the like button, please, and subscribe so you don't miss it, and drop a comment. Do you think scoring 9 out of 12 on NASA's criteria actually means something? Are you surprised that the local bubble would score the same as Gaia? Or do you think I'm just seeing patterns in the noise? I do want to hear your strongest counter arguments. I learned so much for your comments. Thank you so much for watching and for being here in general. Have a great rest of your day. Peace.